Good evening, everyone. This is Dallas Social Toastmasters. We are on Tax Day, April 15th of 2021. Although it's not tax day for a lot of us here in Texas because of the federal emergency that was declared in the state of Texas in every zip code because of the inclement weather that we had. Let me go over just a few things. We got everybody ready in terms of knowing their goals and have our evaluators all gotten set. We are recording this, of course, as you know. We don't have anybody new, so I'm not going to go over all of the items for how to navigate, because I think everybody here pretty much knows that. Let me go over the agenda real quick, however. As always, our agenda will be found on DallasSocialToastmasters.com, which is our website. Off of our website, you'll see three columns. The third column is the member section, and right under the member section is current agenda. Very first link right there. And if you click on the current agenda, it will bring up this copy of the agenda. And from here, oops, let me not scroll right off the title. And from here, you can follow along with what everyone will be doing tonight in our meeting and keep track of exactly where we are and how much we have left to go. With that, I think the next thing is for me to just go ahead and introduce our Toastmaster for the evening. Our Toastmaster for the evening is going to be Karen Lee. Karen, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. The theme for tonight's meeting is wildflowers. And I'm going to do a bit of show and tell tonight. I have a photo, and it's actually in a frame. Not exactly a photo, it's a cross stitch, and it has a lot of wildflowers on it. And the lady that got me into Toastmasters was Melinda Skelton. She actually cross stitched this pattern of a lot of wildflowers. On it is a quote from Lady Bird Johnson. Almost every person from childhood on has been touched by the untamed beauty of wildflowers. There's some called blackbird Susan, Texas bluebonnet, paintbrush, pink evening primrose, coreopsis, gallardia, Mexican hat, and California poppy. This is a photo that I hang in my home. And I was speaking to Melinda on the phone this week. She said, do you have a theme yet? She suggested a theme of wildflowers. So there you are. So before we go any further, I'd like to introduce to do our invocation and pledge, Giles.
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, so I was gonna do the pledge, but let me see if I can get rid of my thing here quick. My back, so I'll need to get rid of the background in order to do that. And it looks like I cannot do that here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go, I'm not gonna do the pledge, but I am going to read off a quote that I found regarding wildflowers. Okay. This is a quote, and I'm not familiar with this person, but their name is Anthony T. Hanks. And the quote is, "Wildflowers don't grow haphazardly as we are led to believe. They grow in fantastic patterns, which are different to each of us, you see." And again, that's Anthony T. Hanks. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. I know that one definition of a wildflower is any flowering plant that has not been genetically altered. And when I think of wildflowers, the one that always comes to mind is the Texas bluebonnet, and it's actually our state flower. And bluebonnets bloom in early spring. Another flower that I see on the roadsides is the Indian paintbrush, and it blooms in early spring. It comes in different colors, which I didn't know, such as orange, yellow, and sometimes purple. And at this time, I'm going to introduce each of the duty holders to tell us about their duties. E. Paul Golden Mary is our timer and also our grammarian. So go ahead and tell us about your duty, E. Paul.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. So I'll go over the timer duty first. So as timer, I will obviously time the different speeches, including the prepared speeches, the table topic speeches, as well as the speech evals. For the minimum time, I will put up this green background. Sorry, it's very amateur. And then for the target time, I will put up this yellow background. And for the maximum time, I'll put up the red background. For the table topic speeches, the minimum time has to be 1 minute. There is no lower limit grace period, but you can speak for 30 seconds above the upper limit. For everything else, you can go 30 seconds before the minimum time or 30 seconds above the maximum time. And then my other duty is grammarian. As grammarian, I will pay attention to all speakers, listening carefully for proper use of the English language, as well as any incorrect uses of grammar. If there's anything that I notice, I will write it down, and at the end, when called upon by the general evaluator, I will report my findings. I will also introduce the word of the day, which is going to be feckless. And the definition is weak, ineffective, or worthless and irresponsible. So I decided to go with a more negative word today. Example of this in a sentence would be, she is unable to rely on her feckless husband, or a feckless maneuver that could only serve to strengthen the enemy. So whenever possible, especially in the table topics speeches, please try to use this word feckless. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Our next duty holder is Mark Stamps, who is doing the posture bill duty and vote counter this evening. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and please excuse my temporary absence. It's one of those terrible moments when no one's moving. I'm thinking, hey, is anyone there? And I'm the one that's gone. I got kicked out. As the vote counter, I will count the votes on those occasions tonight where we do have a competitive race. At any meeting, we may vote on up to 4 different races. One is for the best speaker, and then best evaluator, best table topics, and best of the big 3. So you will all, on the votes we do take, private chat your response to me. I'll tally the votes and announce at the end of the meeting. And then as posture monitor, I will do the best I can to identify any type of body language or any type of gestures that may detract from the audience's attention to the speaker. And then I'll make a report when called upon during the evaluation part of the meeting. Madam Toastmaster.
And let's see, the next duty holder that we have is Rob Giles. He's performing the duty of the counter. Please tell us about your duty.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. As the counter, I will be listening for ahs, ums, long pauses, any crutch words that you may use that are distracting or not intentionally part of what you're trying to present. When I do hear that, hopefully you will hear this. If you don't hear that, don't worry. I'm still recording everything that I'm going through, and I will give a report at the end of the meeting when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
One of our Texas wildflowers that's very common is the verbena. And the verbena blooms in the spring. So we've now come to the speech portion of our meeting. And Lee King is our speaker and his evaluator is Rob Giles. Rob, do you want to give us the purpose of Lee's speech, please?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. One moment. Lee is giving a speech in regard to the project titled Researching and Presenting. And the purpose of the project is for Lee to learn and review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. And it can be humorous, informational, or any style that Lee chooses. It should not, well, the speech content and style should work well together, and it is not to be a report on the content of researching and presenting. His time for the timer is 6 to 8 minutes, so please note that. And Lee, be sure that you have our timer, EPAL, on your screen when you are presenting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Lee King, copulation to increase population. Lee King.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Tonight, I'm going to share the story about copulation to increase population. And more specifically, tonight we will talk about the reproduction of invertebrates because they have very unique reproduction patterns that I think you all will find very interesting. So first, there's some important terms that I will go over because if you don't understand these terms, it becomes challenging to understand the rest of the speech. So first, the term gonochoristic, which means that an organism has either a male or female reproduction tract, and they either can become, and they stay male or female throughout their life. So in other words, they're a lot like humans. They're either male or they're female. Then there are hermaphroditic organisms. These organisms have both male and female reproductive organs at the same time. Then, however, they will only use one or the other. They'll either be male or female. They'll either use one organ system or the other, but they have both. Then there are the simultaneous hermaphroditic, and these organisms are both male and female. They have both male and female organs, and they produce both eggs and sperm at the same time. Then there's sequential hermaphroditic organisms, and these are organisms that have both male and female reproductive organs, and they can change genders throughout their life from either male to female or female to male. However, usually they will transition from being male to female. And then you have the protandry hermaphroditic organisms, and these begin life as a male, but they will become female over time. So these organisms will only switch one time, unlike the sequential that have both, and then they can go between the two. So let's start talking about scorpions. Now, the interesting thing about scorpions is, of course, they are gonochoristic, so they are either male or female, but they like to play it safe during sex because they may actually never come in contact with another scorpion. Scorpions tend to fight one another. So the male can actually reproduce, can actually leave his sperm behind in his tracks and leave a silk strand behind him, which will lead the female to where he left his sperm. And the female scorpion can then deposit the sperm cells into her body. Or if they did actually see each other, the male might perform a special kind of mating dance and then toss the sperm to the female. But nevertheless, usually they will do this from apart with social distancing protocols in place. Then there are the earthworms. They are the hermaphroditic organisms and also sea slugs. Now, unfortunately for the earthworms, it does usually take two to tango, so they do have to come together at some point. However, the sea slug is different because if no one will tango with the sea slug on the right, well, he can just decapitate his head and grow a new head and a new body and reproduce that way. So again, he doesn't ever have to contact anybody. He also can reproduce COVID safe with social distancing protocols in place. Then there are the marine flatworms. These are again hermaphroditic. They have both male and female. And what you see on the left is a fight because it's a rough day when your partner makes you the responsible one. In other words, it's rough if you become the female and have to bear the eggs. So on the left, you'll see where two marine flatworms are duking it out. And on the right, you can actually see these little white spiky things. And this, by the way, is what you would call female fencing. I'm sorry, penis fencing, as they are showing off their penises. Now the snails, they are simultaneously hermaphroditic. So at least they can say we are in this together, since we will both be mommy someday. That's right, the snail, unlike other animals, during sexual relationship, they actually exchange both sperm and egg at the same time, and both will lay eggs. Some sea stars are the prodandry, hermaphroditic, meaning that they start out as a male and then they became a female. So what can we say other than what happened to the good old days of no responsibility? Where is their mom? Where is their daddy? Other sea stars and sand dollars can actually just split themselves in half and grow the other part. Actually, with the sea star, he can just lose one of his 5 arms, and that would be enough to create a new sea star. So they can simply say, I can just divide myself into 2 rather than get close to others. Again, COVID safe, social distancing protocols in place. The rotifers are very interesting in that in this group of animals, they're all female. They have a gland that actually produces the yolk to make the eggs. So in this world, the women rule, no men allowed here. Honeybees? Well, actually, welcome to the convent. Most of the bees in the bee, pretty much all of the bees in the beehive are all female, even the worker bees. Although the queen bee, from time to time, she might be nice and make a male to play with from time to time, but no guarantees, because she can actually produce the male whenever she wants. And if she doesn't feel like a male is needed in the hive, then all she'll do is reproduce more females. That, ladies and gentlemen, wrapped up a real quick lesson on reproduction within the invertebrates. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Have we heard from Cheryl?
Most recent we have from Cheryl is that she is still down.
Okay,
The only alternative we have at this moment is if she manages to make it in after table topics.
that's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. One of my most favorite wildflowers, we called the buttercup, but it's actually called pink evening primrose. It's got a yellow filaments inside the middle. We used to pick that from our yard and put it on our nose, and we get yellow, the yellow part on the tip of our nose. It's known for blooming between April to June. The blooms open at sundown in North Texas. It's also, the evening primrose is also very drought tolerant. The next portion of our meeting is our table topics, and our table topics master is Mark Schroeder. So go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Karen. First of all, let's just go over a couple of the rules. This is table topics, so this is going to be impromptu questions. I'm going to ask a question and call on some people randomly. We've got a small-ish crew tonight, so some of you who would normally be completely immune to this, well, you're going to get inoculated tonight the other way, because we're going to call on some of you. Yes, Rob, I see Rob liking that because that was his word of the day last week. So I will be calling on some people who normally wouldn't be being called on, just to make sure that we get enough questions out. Your time is 1 to 2 minutes. You have to make at least 1 minute, but once you get to 2 minutes, you still have got a 30-second leeway to 2:30. Watch your timing flags. And your timer is, of course, going to be EPOL. With regard to the word of the day is feckless, which is lacking initiative or strength of character, irresponsible, something along that nature, just in terms of thinking how to use the word. So it is an adjective. It modifies nouns. If you know what a noun is. If you don't know what a noun is, you're in trouble. All right. So those are the two things you have to do to qualify for one of the prizes and ribbons tonight. And I will go ahead and start off the questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split it between a couple of things. I'm going to split it between our theme and one other thing tonight. We'll start with a theme question. Wildflowers. I don't know if you know, but City of Plano, at least, and maybe in other places, but City of Plano has got designated wildflower areas that are typically medians and highways or areas of parks where it is designated that wildflowers will grow there. And in fact, it is illegal to pick them or to do anything to destroy those wildflowers. Compare and contrast that with the fact that if I were to grow the very same thing in my front lawn, I would be cited for growing weeds. And I would end up with a fine that I would have to pay for putting weeds into my lawn, because basically wildflowers, by a lot of definitions, they're weeds. You know, the rule is if you don't water it and it grows like crazy, it's a weed. If you water it like crazy and it dies, then it's grass or something important. So here's the question. Try to explain to me why in the world I get in trouble and get a fine for something that you would be fined for picking someplace else with regard to wildflowers. And I'm going to ask this question, EPOL.
Thank you for that wonderful question. So you're asking, oh, is someone gonna, I can time myself, I guess.
Hang on 1 second. I will get you. What? Just 1 second. Okay, you can go.
So you're asking, why is it that if you were to plant your own weeds, that would be fine, but if you were to pick it from a public area, you would be fined for it?
That they're effectively that they're allowed to grow unrestrained in one place, and I am required to maintain them on my own property.
Huh. It could be that the city of Plano thinks that you growing them may make you a bit more feckless than if it were to be grown in the public domain. And I guess then they have more rules regarding that because it's not really under their jurisdiction. Whereas if it's on public property, there's obviously someone that they can force to maintain that. And so they have less restrictions about what each individual person can do with it. Whereas if it's on your property, because it's some official wildflower, maybe they have more strict rules for the homeowner who decides to plant those. Otherwise, I really don't have much of a good answer for that question. So I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Tabletop Mixmaster.
Okay, thank you so much. You did qualify on time, obviously, by the way. Let me go back to my wildflower picture. Here we go. All right, second question. We'll go the other direction. It obviously happens to be April 15th, which usually means something, but not in Texas. It still does for a lot of the people in the US, but not for us this year. Imagine, if you will, or maybe I ought to do this as Rod Sterling, picture, if you will, that you have just filed your tax return and you're getting a $10,000 return. Not only that, but you just got through with your final COVID vaccination and waited the 2 weeks so that you are completely and fully vaccinated. What are you going to do with that $10,000 return that you just got? This question is going to go out to Lee King.
$10,000 is a lot of money, so I definitely would not want to be feckless with the inheritance from the government. I think that with my $10,000, I would pay off some bills, put some money in savings, and finally probably give a little bit of money to charity, because while I do have some bills and expenses that I do need to pay, I can also share that, because definitely there are a lot of people that are going through hard times right now and could use the money. I don't know how I would quite divide it up though. I would probably pay any bills first, then put a little money in savings, and maybe about $1,000 or so to charity, a food bank or something of that nature, where the money, a little bit of money, goes a far way. Back to you, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Thank you so much, Lee. Another tax-related question. Tell me your Social Security number, your adjusted gross income from your last, no, I'm just kidding. I would never, ever be able to get that information out of you without a blunt object. Anyway, here's the question. Have you ever cheated on your taxes? And of course, you'll never admit to that. Nobody would ever admit to that. So what would it take, or what would you consider the level of cheating on your taxes? I mean, would it be cheating if you had $1.29 in terms of interest on a savings account and you don't feel like giving them their 40 cents because you don't think that's going to get reported? What is cheating and what would it take to make you do that? This question is going to go to John Vessels.
Hey, well, if it's $1.29 in interest, you don't have to declare it anyway because it's less than $10. So there's no point to that. If I were going to cheat on my taxes, there'd be no point to it. It's more hassle than it's worth. I mean, I don't make that kind of money that if I got my full tax return back or even some extra, that it would warrant paying the probably 3 to 4 times as much of when they did catch me, if they did catch me. So no, I wouldn't cheat on my taxes. I file mine, boy, the day I get my W-2 form in most cases and get that going. And I don't know. I mean, I don't consider it feckless to not to go through with paying your taxes. And I personally don't understand why they're keep extending our tax date. It's like most people, I guess it's just the people that, you know, owe money. They'll give more time to save up to pay for that tax bill if they have to pay it now in May or June. It's June now instead of today. I guess that's this them being nice. But I already filed mine, got my money back over 2 months ago, and it's in my checking account or my savings account, and I'm done. So extend it to December 29th if you want to, because I'm done. I'm finished. I paid it. I'm out of the way. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Back to you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you can still, if you wanted to, you could still send it in today. You could send it in early. They don't mind that. They are certainly behind. There's no question because of COVID that they are behind in terms of processing returns and checking them over and everything. That's not really, I think we got it because of the inclement cold and the emergency declaration. But, and there were some other counties, I believe, of other states. It was all of Texas and a few other counties outside of Texas that got it. But I have to admit, I wasn't expecting that myself. All right, one back on not quite wildflowers, but flowers just not, well, I'm going to say flowers in general, but a specific question about flowers. Do you have a flower that you were particularly enamored with, a flower that you really like, whether because of its aroma or its color or the ease of caring with it, caring for it, etc.? This question is going to go to Munish, who has joined us.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, is there a particular flower that you really love, either because of its color, its shape, its aroma, but a flower that you really, really love?
I love rose because rose color is very beautiful. It has red color. When boys date with girls, they give rose to the girls. Rose is considered in India as an auspicious flower. Wherever rose people are planted in their home or outside, it looks immensely beautiful. It has its own aura. And that's the reason people love rose. We make squash juice of rose also that we drink in summer when it's terribly cold, terribly hot, and that we enjoy drinking that drink that is immensely super sumptuous. It is full of sugar, but it's natural sugar. You do not have to put dark sugar. You can put in that jaggery. So that's the reason that sometime when in summer, I own a department store and we call that juice, roux abza, that is not available. It is always in a shortage. Whoever comes to your home, you offer that person that drink because it's dirt cheap, we can afford, and people love to drink. That's the reason people love rose. Whenever I see rose, it uplifts my soul. One of the city of India where ladies put their rose in their hair because they want to look attractive. That's the reason some of the people, when they worship God, they go and put rose in the temple. That's the reason everybody loves rose. Rose is loved by everybody in India. It's not that I'm the person. Because of its beauty, the color, because it has immense benefit. That's the reason we like it. Over to the Toastmaster, please.
Thank you, Manish. For what it's worth, I also am a little bit taken by one particular rose. I will show you one that's actually in my backyard. It is a yellow rose, however. It is not a red rose. It is a yellow rose. This one I picked mostly for its aroma, and the color was second. It happens to smell like, believe it or not, lemon pledge is the closest thing to describe it. It has a very much of a citrus smell, very much a lemon, just like lemon pledge does. And it has grown like crazy since I put it in. I will have to get it. It has perfuma something or other in the label. I will have to get the exact label for you if you have more interest. But it's a really pretty rose. One more question. So I have two sisters. They are both CPAs, and they are very, very different with regard to their taxes. One of them, e-file all the way. The other one, she does all of her taxes on TurboTax and then prints it out rather than e-filing because she is afraid to e-file after going through all of the work to get it ready through TurboTax. And she does this every year. It's like, I'm not doing that. I don't trust that. The other delays it because they've got to rekey it in and everything else, but that's what she does. E-file or not e-file? Do you feel comfortable doing that, or do you stay away from e-file and anything electronic when it comes to doing your return? This question is going to go to you, Karen Lee.
Do I file my taxes electronically, or do I have them printed and file them? I have a CPA that helps with my taxes, and he has advised me to not submit them electronically. So I have a whole file folder. Actually, it's an expandable file that's like an accordion file that expands to one file folder drawer. And so I go and take this whole thing over to him every year, and we go through everything. In fact, I emailed him today. I had to cancel one appointment because I had my laundry backed up. Where the water is supposed to go down, it went the opposite way. So had a little minor flood, and then had to cancel that appointment. So I sent him an email today to see if we could reschedule. So I will take my information to him. What he does is he fills out everything. Then he sends it to me to proofread. I sign it, date it, put it in an envelope, and send it on to Austin. So I file my tax return via the U.S. Postal Service. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. All right, we're going to cut it short at that tonight. Let me go over who did what. However, before I do that, let's call on duty holders. How did our duty holders do on time, Paul?
So everybody qualified on time except for Manish.
Okay. And with regard to word of the day,
Everybody used the word of the day except for, I think, Karen and Manish.
okay, Karen, did you not use it either?
I did not.
Okay, and Manish, you did not use it? On mute, so, okay. With that, let me go over who did what. So the question about, let's see, about wildflowers went to Paul. Lee got the question on, I did these out of order. Let me think. Oh, Lee got the question about refund. What would he do with a $10,000 refund? John Vessel's got the question about whether or not he would cheat on his taxes. And then let's see, Manish and Karen were disqualified from a vote tonight. So if you would, please cast your votes. Votes, of course, are going to go to Mark Sims through private chat for either Paul, Lee, or John, I believe. Give everybody just a moment to do that. If you'd like to make comments to our speakers, feel free to do that as well. Our speakers
Did you say Lee?
I did say Lee.
No, I thought Paul said that he did not qualify on time.
Oh, did I miss it?
No, he did. He did.
It was Manish who did
Okay.
not qualify on time.
My apologies.
Okay. Thank you. No problem. Always good to make sure. All right. Let me do a quick check. I do not see Cheryl. So we will probably just have to go on with the general evaluation without having our second speaker. Our apologies to everyone. The internet problems happen. I actually lost power myself this week for about 2 hours. No explanation of that, but one way or another. So we will go on with the general evaluation portion, which is going to be being run by Mark Sims. Please welcome Mark Sims as GE tonight.
Thank you all. And this is the evaluation portion of the meeting. We had one speaker tonight and one evaluator. And at this time, I'd like to ask Rob Giles to please give his evaluation of Lee King's speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, and especially you, Lee. I want to go over a few things that I thought you did well with this speech tonight. A couple of things that I thought you can think about as far as making changes, perhaps tweaking a little bit for future speeches. And also something that I really loved about your speech. So I want to start off with some good points. The first thing was your content and the information that you provided. The goal was to research and then present what you've researched. And I thought that the content displayed that you had some great variety of content. You actually presented it with good information as well as visuals. And I'll get into that a little bit more. You had a lot of different variety. You talked about the different, I want to say, I guess, anywhere from insects to, I guess, I think it was invertebrates you had called them, but you had referenced scorpions, worms, slugs, flatworms. You talked about snails and also starfish and even beyond those things. So you had a lot of content, a lot of great information in that regard. And I thought that you did a great job with that. And how you presented those things was fantastic. I thought your slideshow, as far as how you put that together, was good. You had visuals with photos of each of the invertebrates or the vertebrates that you were actually talking about. And you gave information, but it wasn't an overload. It was simple and to the point, which is the best way to present so that you don't have information overload. You don't have people trying to read what you're saying and lose track of what you're saying. And so I thought you did a great job as far as limiting the information on the slides, but yet providing
photos to go along with it. So I thought you did a great job with the slides in that regard. As far as something that I thought that you could think about improving was your preparation for getting the slides going, because there was a delay when you were introduced and we were waiting for you to get the slides up and waiting for the speech to begin. So that kind of caused a pause and may have taken some of the audience away from you for a little bit. So that's something to think about and maybe hone in on and practice a little bit more prior to presenting your next speech that might include slides. I do want to also say that your intro, I thought, could have possibly been maybe a little bit better. It could have been something that actually drew the audience in, and it could have been an anecdote. It could have been a reference to one of the creatures that you were going to be talking about down the road. And it could have helped us to draw or at least create some anticipation. Maybe you would have talked about scorpions just briefly. Hey, have you ever gotten stung by a scorpion? And then later on you go on, or have you ever seen, many scorpions in your home? And that might have been a good lead in, something along those lines. I also think that possibly you could have referenced where you were getting your information from, so that we knew where you were getting. I didn't notice that. If you did do it, I apologize. If you did reference something, I apologize. But I think that I missed out on that, and because I missed out on that, I didn't have anything that, oh, he really researched this. I mean, you had the content, but how about a little reference to where you got that content? Finally, the thing that I wouldn't say that I loved over everything, but one of the things that I thought was interesting was your title. And we had a little bit of back and forth with some of our members when we found out what the speech title was. So I think overall, you had some good content. You gave us a lot of different variety as far as the slides are concerned, and you made those very easily accessible as far as visually, visual, I guess, absorption. So you did great with that. You may want to think about practicing a little bit to begin your speech with the slides so you can get right into it, and then possibly maybe bring an anecdote or bring a reference to a future part of the speech to really engage the audience at the beginning. I really loved the speech. The content was great. I learned a lot, and I thank you for the speech. I look forward to your next speech. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Rob. And at this point, we will go into our duty holders reports. And thank you very much, Rob. I tripped right past that. Paul, would you please give us a timer's report on Rob's evaluation?
It was a great evaluation, but unfortunately, it did not qualify for timing purposes. It was
Thank you.
4 minutes and 52 seconds.
And that's in true Toastmaster fashion. You throw a little positive in there.
It's almost long enough for an icebreaker.
Close. We had time, right? We didn't have a second speaker, so.
I am surprised that the timing for the evaluator is so short. I feel like 2 to 3 minutes.
It's good. It actually is good. It's just when you have somebody like Rob Giles, then it's a little hard.
2 to 3 minutes goes by very quickly. So thank you, Paul. Thank you for the reminder, Rob. And Rob, before you sign off, since we're going to have our duty holders report, please give us your counters report.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. We had a fairly clean meeting as far as ahs and ums. We did have some general conjunctions of and or and so from a variety of different people. That's something that I think we do struggle with overall, including myself, having that transition. And we use the and we use it multiple times, and we use so to begin our sentences more than we need to. But overall, it wasn't horrible, but it was sprinkled in there. Specifically, as far as ahs and ums were concerned, I don't know if anybody heard my clicks. Some of them I was able to actually click. Some I did not get clicking, but I did write down. Mark Schroeder, you had at least one and a couple of ums, I think. And then Also, John Vessels, you had one that I heard. Karen, you had an as well. And all of those took place during the table topics portion of the meeting. And that was all that I heard as far as ahs, ums, and you knows, and things like that. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Rob. And Epaw, would you please give us a grammarian's report?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So I will start with Mark Schroeder. I really like how this is not just this time, but I've noticed this as a recurring theme. You do a good job with evoking images in the audience's mind. You do a good job at getting us to visualize certain things, like when you discussed the aroma with the lemon pledge and you said, picture this, and it kind of just, it helps the audience feel like they're a part of your story rather than just listening to you talk to us. So I thought that was something that you did well and you continue to do well. Rob, I liked how you used honing in. You mentioned something about absorption of content, which I thought was a good way to phrase it. I did mention, I did notice one time where you said how you did this is, or like something of that sort, where it's not incorrect, but it's just it's a little bit clunky in the order of your words. But I think that's just something that comes with, you know, not having the idea right on the tip of your tongue, and so you kind of form your sentence as you go. I'm sure you know that. Karen, you mentioned something about the tip of the nose. I just thought there's a term for that. You can call it the apex if you want. It's kind of pedantic, but it just popped into my mind. I liked how you used the accordion file. I thought that was a good image. I haven't heard that in a while. Lee, I really enjoyed your speech. As always, you have very educational speeches. You have a very good use of humorous catchphrases. I feel like you had one on every slide, and it kind of incorporated, I don't know if pop culture is the right word, but you did the COVID safe distancing. You said 2 to tango, we are in this together, welcome to the convent. There was one thing about like men are not allowed, which I thought was kind of funny as well. I really enjoyed the penis fencing. That wasn't really grammatical, but I just thought it was funny. And Munish, I liked your use of immensely. You used the word aura, which I thought was a little bit more sophisticated of a way to describe what you were trying to get across. So those were kind of the things that I wrote down. Everybody, I think for the most part, used the English language correctly. I didn't really notice any egregious uses. So good job. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Epaw. And I will give the report as posture monitor. And I also took into account not just folks that were speaking, but everyone that was in the audience and caught a few things. Early on, Epaw, I saw you swiveling in your chair, which you do while you were speaking, I understand, most likely not. John Vessels, a couple of times I saw you either rubbing your face or one time combing your beard. Mark Sims, where's he? Oh, that's me. I get in the habit of doing this. I don't even want to know what that means psychologically, but I saw myself doing that, and I saw myself scratching my nose at one time. So, okay, what goes around? Mark Schroeder at one point was speaking. I saw repeated lacing and interlacing fingers. Several folks were looking down, which that maybe I shouldn't have brought that up, because if you're looking at notes, you're going to look down, but you do that on the screen, you notice it. Lee maybe had the smartest idea of all. When he was giving his response on table topics, he was not visible. Hey, he could been doing whatever, got away with it. And we had some really good responses. Munish, in his table topics response, had very good, strong gestures, and he was standing up so we could see them well. And likewise, Rob Giles in his evaluation, good, strong gestures. And then Epaw in his duty holder remarks, I saw this to emphasize his points. So there were some very good gestures. That is all the reports from the duty holders. I will now give my thoughts on the meeting as a whole. We all had to pull together, make the meeting work. Karen Lee stepped up as Toastmaster. Lee stepped up as speaker. I became general evaluator, even though Lee was already here to be general evaluator. But again, Lee turned indispensable since our other speaker couldn't make it. I really liked, or also note that several of us were having to fight with technology. We eventually won it for the most part. I mean, Cheryl couldn't show up. Rob is a little bit delayed. And then I took a brief couple of minute vacation unscheduled. But hey, we all worked through it. A few notes about Lee's speech. For starters, if you put this together just for tonight, you did a lot of work in a short period of time, because that was substantive work. And the pictures were beautiful. Now, given the title of your speech, when you went to the slides, okay, now what's Rob what's Lee gonna be showing us? But no, you kept it clean, educational. Those were some beautiful pictures too. The blue scorpion, the red starfish, those are really excellent. There was one egregious lapse on your part, Lee, one major error on the part where you talked about the mating dance of one of the, I think it was a scorpion. You did not tell us if he used great lines like, hey baby, what's your sign? So, okay, we'll forgive you, but you could definitely have made the speech better, including that vital information. I thought the table topics was good. The combination of the questions on flowers and then the income taxes, which definitely the latter we can all relate to. And then Mark Schroeder, that picture of the yellow rose outside your house, that is beautiful. So if you're the one that's growing the flowers, you are to be congratulated. So that is really, really nice. Those are all the comments I have on the meeting. This time I would like to invite us to vote for the best of the big three. And you can either vote for either Karen Lee, our Toastmaster, Mark Schroeder, our Table Topics Master, or me, Mark Sims, General Evaluator. If you vote for one of the two Marks, then please spell out the complete last name, because you can't say Mark or you can't say Mark S. And please send the results to me by private. And I will look at those in a minute. Or actually, I'll just take before I go into the business part of the meeting, I'll take a break, see who we have.
While you're doing that, I will say, Mark, Mark Schroeder, the real answer to your question is regarding your lawn and growing those weeds in your lawn that's just you. They don't care if anybody else does it, but it's just you. Now, if you had yellow roses, then that might be different out there.
It is probably fair to say that if everything out there, I mean, to be fair, everything out there was a wildflower and they were flowering, but it was undoubtedly a neighbor that complained.
Okay. I will keep an eye and see if we have any additional responses. But before I announce the winners, I will have the business part of the meeting. And we've not had an officers meeting in a while. So if we can have a quorum next Thursday night, just after the meeting, we can have an officers meeting to cover the subjects that we need to. And I am trying to think of any news. Rob, are there any contests, like division contests coming up?
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. First, I want to say that my normal Saturday 10 a.m. member orientation is going to be moved to Sunday at noon. And it's not that way on our schedule right now. I think it's 10 a.m. on Sunday, I think listed on our calendar, but I will get that moved. It's going to be for noon on Sunday. And the reason being that it's going to Sunday is in reference to what you just mentioned, Mark, which is the Metro Division speech contest. And that will be for international speech and table topics. And that will include our area representative, Area 33 representative, Martin Osai from Dallas ISD Talk It Up Toastmasters. I encourage everybody to attend if they can. It's bound to be fun. We have 6 contestants in each of the contests. So there's going to be some good content in there, and definitely you'll be able to see at least a variety of things coming from the table topics contest, which could encourage you or give you some ideas about how you can improve your responses to table topics. So I encourage everybody to attend. It starts at 10 a.m. and you can find the link. I will send it out. I did put it in the WhatsApp group chat a few days back. I think maybe it was yesterday, but I will send out an email with that information as well. But you can also find it on the D50 website. So that's d50tm.org, and go to contests, and you will find the link there for Metro Division. And you'll also find the program there as well, but the link to get to the Zoom meeting. The doors will open at 9 a.m. So you're welcome to come and hang out before the contest if you like, but the actual contest won't start until 10 a.m. And that's all that I have for right now. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rob. And does any other officer have any business to bring up? Okay. Hearing none, and again, we can revisit everything we need to at the meeting at the end of next week. I would like to announce our winners. 2 of the contests tonight that were competitive. One was table topics and the other was the best of the big 3. Our winner for table topics is Lee King. Congratulations, Lee. And well, obviously Lee was the best speaker too by unanimous consent. Rob was an amazing evaluator, just a little bit long-winded. And the other competitive race was for the best of the big 3, and the winner was our Toastmaster, Karen Lee. And thank you again, Karen. If there are no other issues to be brought up, then thank you everyone for joining us tonight and pulling together to have a very fun meeting.
I do have one quick one.
Yes, sir.
I did another email to our district director, and this time I copied several other people to make sure I got a response. And I did get a response back this time. The response back, I can say.
And this is in regard to COVID.
Yeah, this is with regard
guidelines.
to the COVID guidelines and what we might be able to do or might have to do. And it's not as helpful as I was hoping, but it's at least a reply. It basically says that unfortunately the person, Monica, our district director, probably read it while she was in the car or something. And as a result, she forgot about it, thought that she had responded or whatever. Anyway, Toastmasters International hasn't issued any guidelines on in-person meetings. As a district, right now it has to be a club-made decision. We do have, she says, we do have some clubs that have started having hybrid meetings, which we knew that. I've got a handful of 6 or 7 that I've been informed by the Plains director that he knew of. But other than that, rules and guidance will have to come from club members by working with the facilities in which we meet. So I'll be contacting people to see what people are feeling and how people are feeling. But I think my biggest concern with this, of course, is the question of legal and accommodations, and we got 0 guidance on that. So
right, liability, right?
I guess we're kind of being told that it's not an issue. I'm not happy with that answer, but we're being given no guidance to keep us and/or the district out of trouble.
So maybe do like a Survey Monkey or something.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with SurveyMonkey. It's a pain in the neck, but
Oh,
a survey of some kind, yeah. I don't want to mess up. I've installed SurveyMonkey on our website before and sent out a survey and probably gotten 3 responses from the entire club at the time. And it's more work than it's worth. I will call or ask or email. It's just a lot easier and more efficient for me for something that we're not going to use a lot.
I think, and I don't know, but I think you can do polls on Zoom.
Yeah, but you won't be able to get everybody involved in it.
Yeah, then we will get whoever is on Zoom that day, but that's not everybody I need to reach.
Yeah, the only thing is, I mean, like Lee,
It's a
I think
start, though.
probably what Lee is thinking about is anonymity for the people, but that's ultimately they can just refuse to answer you.
Yeah,
if they
I
don't
mean,
want it.
that too.
That too. And I can easily give people that out as I ask the question, but then I at least know who refused to answer.
Right.
I don't have their answer, but I know who refused.
Right.
And so one could argue process of elimination. If I ask 15 people and one says no, and I get 14 others back, then I kind of know. I still don't know what their
Right.
answer is, but I don't know who did it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Reminds me on sometimes I'll see an article on the internet and at the bottom there's a question. Did you like this article, dislike it, or don't care? If you didn't care, why would you
Get to that
click
point.
on not caring? But I guess some people do. Maybe I ought to do that. Maybe I'll be a trendsetter here.
Mess with their statistics, yeah. That's
All
it.
right, in that case, thank you all very much and have a great weekend.
All right, and we will stop the recording in 3, 2,